It is time for us to start using the principles of manifestation to manifest a better world. If you're like me, you are just tired of watching all of these injustices that are just playing out all over the world. The problem is that we might be unintentionally contributing to the problems that we're witnessing in two ways. The first is through our focused attention. So, what I mean by that is that our focused attention is what are we deliberately, consciously putting our attention on? Because what we focus on tends to expand. The reality is, most people tend to focus on the problem, right? And so, if we're focused on the problem, guess what? We're going to get more of the same. If not the same problem, then something that is on the same scale vibrationally. Instead, we need to start retraining our brains to focus on the solutions. Now, the second thing, how we might be unintentionally contributing to the problems that we face is because of the feelings that are generated. In the principles of manifestation, people like Neville Goddard talk about how feelings are the secret to manifesting. Just like I talked about earlier, most of us are having feelings that are reactionary. We observe something, we have a feeling about it. We see an injustice, we have a feeling about it. That's totally normal. I get that. But there's also a place where we can take back our power and we can start to feel the feelings of the end result of the world that we want to create, the world that we really genuinely want. So, I want to share with you a map of consciousness that I think is really helpful. This map right here, this was created by psychiatrist and spiritual teacher David Hawkins in the book Power versus Force. Now, I think this is really powerful because in this book, David Hawkins talks about the concept of power and force and how it relates to human consciousness and behavior. So what he did here is he developed a method that calibrates the level of human consciousness on a logarithmic scale from 1 to 1,000. This scale correlates with different emotions, perceptions, and worldviews. So you can see here, if you look on the right side of the image, that the lower fields, 1 to 199, that tends to be more destructive energy. That's where force really comes into play. It's also associated with lower vibrational feelings like shame, guilt, fear, etc. Then there's this middle zone that's more of like a zone of neutrality. It's where we're starting to move away from destructive energy into a place that it's kind of like the tipping point, where you can start to shift into a more positive consciousness. So that's on the scale, it's 200 to 499. So this is positive movement. It's a turning point, and we're starting to get into the more creative energy space. And then the enlightened states, which is 500 to 1,000, those have places, feelings related to joy, peace, enlightenment, and they're incredibly powerful. But right now, I want to focus on that middle area because I think this is where we have a lot of personal power to make a difference, to shift our view of what's happening with the injustices from a place of anger, which is under 200, or fear, like so many people I know are watching the news or seeing what's going on in the world and are just so scared, and understandably so. I get that. I'm not denying you your regular feelings, or your reactive feelings to what exists. But I'm saying that you can make a positive difference by also deliberately, consciously working on cultivating different feelings, higher vibrational feelings like courage, or even neutrality. Neutrality from the point of view of, not judging the situation, but being able to observe it and then decide how you want to move forward and then react or feel from there. Now, earlier you heard me say that this map of consciousness, you see the numbers on the left, that relates to logarithmic scale, which means it's exponential, right? So if you go from apathy, which is 50, to um, grief, which is at calibrated at 75, we're not talking about just a 25-point jump. We're talking about an exponential jump where the base is magnified by that much. Sorry, I'm not a mathematician, so I can't explain this as well as, somebody that is really smart with logarithms. But the point is that there's so much more energetic power the higher you go up. And it's not just, a simple doubling. It's, exponentially so. Now, a lot of you have heard about let me stop sharing for a moment. A lot of you who have been exposed to manifestation principles and law of attraction, you are familiar with what Hawkins talks about in terms of attractor fields. So basically, he is just acknowledging that our reality is shaped by invisible energy patterns that he calls attractor fields. And this influences our perceptions, our decisions, our worldview, etc. Not surprisingly, especially given what I just said about the logarithmic nature, the power behind it, high energy attractors are associated with more positive emotions. It's associated with growth, with empowerment. Um, and as a result, they are able to um, counteract one person, for example. And I'm going to butcher this, but one person vibrating at enlightenment, for example, from that image, can counteract millions and millions of individuals that are vibrating at anger or pride, places that are much lower on the scale. So this is why it doesn't, this is why I'm excited about this work, because number one, it gives us power, a new type of power, a power that existed, but we didn't necessarily know. And that is the power of us as individuals to positively influence the collective consciousness. The second reason why I'm excited about this is it doesn't take that many of us who will intentionally and consciously going to vibrate and focus on a just world, a more peaceful world, to counteract millions of people that are vibrating much lower and keeping the existing paradigm of the world in place. Hopefully, this is not like too much, too above or like too over your head. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. Trust me, this is something that I have been studying for years, through not only reading, but just my own personal experiences. And it's taken me a while to really get the power of this and how we can shape our world. Okay, so Hawkins, as I mentioned, talked about these attractor fields, which we're all familiar with. If you've had any exposure to The Secret or Law of Attraction, that's what he's talking about. And the lower energy attractors go, they're associated with negative emotions, they're associated with weakness, limitation, things that constrict, as opposed to things that expand. The thing that's important to realize is that attractor fields, they function not just at the individual level, but at the collective level as well. And this is significant because part of what we have to do to create a better world is to impact the collective consciousness. Now, there's different levels of consciousness, uh, but let's just put it for simplistic terms in two ways. There's individual consciousness, which is, you know, our individual thoughts. It's what we think about ourselves, it's what we think about other people. You know, it's sort of contained into our individual self. Then there's the collective consciousness. Each of us is tapped in and connected to one another through a level of consciousness that most of us don't really think about. Carl Jung talked about how it impacted certain primal tendencies, or like even our um, innate instincts to survive or flee or things of that nature. So, one argument that I've always heard, and I've had it myself, so I get it, is the people that critique law of attraction and manifestation principles is, well, surely people who are uh, facing injustices did not manifest these injustices. They didn't try to have this happen to them. And I get that. As I said, this is something that I struggled with myself. It took me a long time to reconcile this concept as well, but it's because I think most of the teachings that are out there about manifesting and law of attraction focuses solely on the individual and individual consciousness. But the reality is, we cannot divorce ourselves, from the collective consciousness, right? Like it's just part of whatever's operating in the ether. Um, so the analogy I like to use is this is something by Stephen Covey. I saw this example. He had like a glass of some dark liquid. Let's just imagine a glass of muddy water. Well, how do you change the contents of that, right? And in the example, he starts pouring in just clear water. And eventually, the muddy water just it it starts to lighten and lighten and lighten until eventually it is pure clear water. So in terms of consciousness, how do we go from a consciousness that welcomes war and injustices and poverty and violence and, isms, and convert that into a consciousness that is more peaceful, more loving, more enlightened, more where everybody has what they need and what they want and can, just be their authentic selves. Um, what is, so to speak, what is the clean water, right? In this example, how do we clean up a corrupted or dirty collective consciousness? So, good news. It starts with us. Just like we can't divorce ourselves from the collective consciousness cannot divorce itself from our individual consciousness. So, this is important because any of you, any of us who have done anything to evolve at the individual level, a personal growth journey, healing journey, engaging in therapy or life coaching or spiritual practices or prayer, all of that matters because that is adding some clean water into the collective consciousness. It's when we're willing to grow and change without judging. That's a harder part. We'll get to that another in a future video. Um, it's exposing ourselves to that higher energy field, the higher vibrating, higher attraction fields through these different practices and also through connecting with other people that are committed to this type of evolution for our world. Um, it's us letting go of our limiting beliefs, of our judgments, of negative emotions as much as possible. Again, this is not an overnight thing. I will tell you, I am 50 years old. I've been on this journey for I don't know how many years, 30 years or so of personal growth and development. And it really I'm trying to collapse that timeline for you all so that we can get there faster, but it can take a while. So there's no judgment in how long it takes or how difficult it can be. And the reality that you can pour in some of that good, clean water of, let's say affirmations or therapy or doing your own personal growth work or spiritual work. And also, simultaneously, we might be throwing in some muddy water back in by, not being conscious of our negative emotions. Anyway, so I'm, if you've done any work at all, that sometimes this journey from going into higher vibrations and higher levels can involve sometimes some difficulties and dark nights of the soul, and that's all normal. But my point in saying that is your individual work matters and it's making a difference. So thank you. Keep going, keep doing your individual work. It not only helps you, but it is helping the collective consciousness. Now, the second part is we have to work on collective evolution. So individual evolution, great. Now let's work on collective evolution. So this is why I'm saying we need to start applying manifestation principles to the collective, to the world, not just for our own individual desires. We have to start imagining the world that we want, the justice that we want, the equality, the peace, the growth, the love, the happiness, the joy, really start to imagine it because we can't just base the future on knowledge, on what we know, because what we know isn't good enough. It's not working. If it were working, everybody would be happy. Everybody would be thriving, but we're not there yet. But I think we can get there in time. So imagine it, right? That's one of the gifts that we have. It is our imagination is a spiritual gift. So let's use it for something in addition to our own individual growth and happiness, etc. Let's use it for the collective. So not only imagining it, but then visualize it, right? That is another gift that we have. If we can start to see it, um, see what it would look like to have a world without any of the isms or any injustice, that's very powerful, right? Most of us don't even know what that world would look like. We don't have we know we don't what we don't want, but again, what is that focusing on, right? That's focusing on what we don't want. Instead, we need to focus on what we're trying to create. So we'll visualize it, and then feeling the feelings of that world, right? Feeling it, feeling what it would be like to feel safe as we go outside, to feel like it's really fair, to feel that, you know, that there is justice, there is peace, that people can be empowered and authentic and themselves, that equality and equity all matter. Um, the key here is not to just react. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I get it. You're going to have normal reactions. That's okay. Try to balance it out by also being conscious of spending some time feeling the peace, the joy, the feelings of the world that you want to create. And then we also need to engage in some group meditation or visualizing, some group activity. There's been numerous studies conducted that show the power of group meditation. I don't think it's just limited to meditation. I think it's that, when minds come together, there's power there. But anyway, the studies that show that when people have done group meditation, the reduction in violent crimes or any types of like crimes in various large cities throughout the United States. So I'm sure that this same principle can be used to reduce injustices. It can be used to obtain a world that is more peaceful, more joyful, more fair. So, we are not just individuals, we are all connected, whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not. But there's a power to that. And I want us to start leveraging that power. If I'm connected to the people that are perpetrating the things that I don't like in this world, that means that I can also start to influence the collective consciousness of that individual or those individuals. We all are way more powerful than we realize. And it's time for us to start claiming that power back. So, you, I'm talking to you. You have the power to make a difference. Keep doing the work on yourself. Start adding. Start adding some things for the world, of the world that you want to live in, of the world that you want to see happen. Start to see it, start to feel it, start to imagine it, play in that space. It may seem frivolous, but it's not. And by the way, I'm not saying do only this. Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to protest? Great. Keep going to the protest. Add some of this. You're going to lobby your, politicians so that they can do fairer policies and laws. Great. Do that. And add some of this. Be deliberate about your feelings. Be deliberate about visualizing the world that you want. Be deliberate about focusing on the solution, not just the problems. Don't just react like a puppet when you see these things. As much as possible, I understand we're human. It hurts to see the injustices. So you'll have that normal reaction. But part of being a human is also being able to utilize our executive function, the newer part of our brain to also do some of the changes that we want to see in our world. So, where do we go from here? If you identify as a healer, a seer, a light worker, a chosen one, or if you're just a person that wants to see and help heal humanity, help our world become a better place, and you're liking my vibe, then just follow me on this platform. I have a calling to do this work. It's evolving. I don't exactly know how it's all going to turn out, but I do know that I have ideas to help heal humanity, and I want to put that content out there. So here's to all of us manifesting a better world. Thanks.